My name is Tequila. I work in the Future Students team at the University of Adelaide, and I will be your MC for this evening. It is my pleasure to welcome you all to our Health HQ session this evening, showcasing the Faculty of Health and Medical Sciences degree offerings for 2023. Thank you for joining us tonight for the Bachelor of Health and Medical Sciences webinar. This evening, you will have the opportunity to learn about our Health and Medical Sciences program, as well as hear first-hand experience from our current students and academic staff, and of course, ask all of the questions I'm sure you have. Before I begin, I would like to acknowledge that the lands we gather on today are that of the Kaurna people, the traditional custodians of this land. We acknowledge the deep feelings of attachment and the relationship of the Kaurna people to the country, and we respect and value their past, present, and ongoing connection to the land and their cultural beliefs. So moving on to the main event, I would now like to introduce you to our lovely panelists for the evening. Panelists, when I call your name, could you please take a moment to introduce yourself? So first up, we have Corinna van der Heuvel.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us this evening to hear everything about the Bachelor of Health and Medical Sciences programs. My name is Corinna van den Heuvel. I am the Program Coordinator for Bachelor of Health and Medical Sciences, as well as currently the Interim Head of the School of Biomedicine.
Thank you for that, Corinna. Next, we have Kathy Gatford. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for coming this evening. My name is Kathy Gatford, and Corinna and I have worked very much hand in hand. I'm the Program Coordinator for Bachelor of Health and Medical Sciences Advanced, and I also teach into the Reproductive and Childhood Health major.
Beautiful. Thanks, Kathy. And next up, we actually have one of our current students, Nakai, if you'd like to introduce yourself.
Hi, everyone. My name is Nakai, and I am currently studying the Bachelor of Health and Medical Sciences, and I'm in my second year. I'm also the current president of our Degrees Association.
Thank you for that, Nakai. And last but not least, we have another one of our current students, Kelly.
Hi everyone, my name is Kelly. I too am a second year studying the Bachelor of Health and Medical Sciences, and I am the Secretary of the Adelaide Health and Medical Sciences Association.
Beautiful, thank you. So thanks for that introduction, team. I'd now like to hand over to our program coordinators, Karina and Kathy, who will teach us some more about the Health and Medical Sciences program.
Thank you so much, Tequila. As we've said, it's great to be able to speak to you tonight about our programs, and Kathy and I do work hand in hand in coordinating these programs, and so that's how we will run this session too. So we may at times interrupt each other if I forget to say something and vice versa, but that's how we roll. So welcome again. Next slide, please. Thank you for that. So that video really highlights some of the features of our Faculty of Health and Medical Sciences here at the University of Adelaide. And before we begin, I suppose, on really getting into the nitty-gritty of our programs, one of the buildings that hopefully many of you have seen as you drive along North Terrace in the Western Precinct is our Adelaide Health and Medical Sciences building, and this incredible facility that houses researchers and academics and the dental school was opened in 2017. We have nearly 2,000 students that enter its doors on a regular basis, over 600 researchers. And very recently, we have welcomed the South Australian Immunogenomics Cancer Institute, or SAGENCI, to join our family as well. So our students get to immerse themselves in this building and in both of our programs. So it's a wonderful thing. So let's get cracking and talk about our program, shall we? Next slide, please. So why study health and medical sciences? And Kathy, please interrupt me at any time if I get anything. I suppose when we ask students about why they chose health and medical sciences, we get quite a lot of varied answers to that. But one of the common themes that certainly come through is students have this real desire to understand the human body and how it functions, what it's comprised of, what can go wrong with it, how can we treat it, how do we make and create healthy populations. But they may not be entirely exactly sure what element of health or they want to pursue or in their career. And so students will choose health and medical sciences to really give them an opportunity to immerse themselves in all of those different areas of human health and diseases and population health to find their niche, I suppose. Kathy, is that right?
Yeah, very much. A lot of people, I guess one of the advantages, and we'll talk about what the program looks like, but because it's so broad and there's so many choices, coming in from a perspective of, I'm interested in health, I want to do something in that space, but I don't really know what. It's a really nice degree for people who are kind of, I know I'm interested in the human body, I'm interested in human health, but I don't know what bits of it. It's a really nice place to find out about what are your options, what are the areas of specialisation, and then to develop that specialisation sort of as you go into second year and third year.
Exactly. So in first year, our students really get a broad variety of options to choose and electives, and we'll talk about the structure a little bit more in a little while. And then they will fine tune and realise what are those discipline areas that really interest them and what are the areas that perhaps don't interest them as much. And it gives students that time, and I think that's really, really crucial. So, you know, some key things when we think about the programs is, you know, we invite students to seek solutions to our global health issues, collaborate with health professionals and industry partners really early on in the program. And I think this is a really unique feature to our programs, is that even in first year, in our core courses in first year, students are introduced to professions and potential supervisors and industry and alumni, so students who have previously done the degree. And that's really important to set the scene on what they expect in this program and where this program can lead them. Developing career-ready skills, endless career opportunities, and we always laugh when students come and say, what can I do with my program? Where is this degree going to take me? And we always just say, oh my goodness, I'd need a couple of weeks to tell you where our graduates have gone and in what careers they end up in and in what part of the world they are in, because it is just so incredibly diverse. And of course, you are taught by award-winning academics, internationally recognised researchers, and with the opportunity now that thankfully we're back open to international travel and our borders are open, study abroad opportunities as well, which really add that extra depth and flavour to your program. Anything on this slide that you want to add, Kathy, or should we move?
No, you're good. It is lovely to see students start to come back. Sorry, I was just going to say it's really lovely to see students start to have that opportunity for the international travel and adding that opportunity to pick up courses and get the international exposure as well.
That's exactly right. And just on that, sorry, before we play the video, you know, we have incredible program support team or student success team, as they are now called, that can actually work with you to create a study plan to incorporate study abroad opportunities. And we can find similar courses or comparable courses overseas at other international universities, and that means it's not adding any additional time to your degree either, and you do get that immersive experience. Okay, let's play the video. Thank you.
If you're not really sure what you want to do, but you know you want to do something within the health stream, that this is a really good degree because there are so many options that you can explore to find where your interests lie. Each year you have open or closed electives, and there is such a broad range of topics that you can choose from. In our third year, we pick a major and there is a research placement. Some of the majors include clinical trials, neuroscience, public health, and reproductive and childhood health. There's multiple different things across the health streams.
One of my favourite things about studying this degree is definitely the practical sessions in the Raylas laboratory, because it's just a fantastic experience to be able to go down there and look at these specimens and consolidate all of the information that we learn in those lectures and tutorials.
The virtual reality part of the course allows you to be hands-on, manipulate and look at how organs work in a 3D experience, which just helps to reinforce those ideas of anatomy.
Recently, the Adelaide Health and Medical Sciences Association organised an event where alumni came back and talked about the kinds of jobs and the kinds of career pathways that this degree could lead to. It was really eye-opening to see the kinds of jobs that are out there for people who've studied this degree.
If you're not really sure what you want to
Thank you. So I suppose briefly, without getting into too much detail at this early stage, I think it's really important to showcase some of our majors available. And one thing that both Kathy and I really need to stress here is that I would probably say maybe 25 to 30% of our students, when they commence the degree, have an idea as to what major they want to eventually specialise in. Some students come in, they have absolutely no idea, and well, that's the majority of students, I think, don't have an idea because they want to sample the courses at first year to really understand what are those disciplines that they prefer than others. Yes, Kathy?
Sorry, Karina, I'm going to jump in.
Good.
So we're all a little guilty, I think, of using university speak at the moment. So basically what a major is the area that you end up specialising in. I guess the key point, so you will end up, if you do this program, specialising in one of these 6 areas of majors.
Mm-hmm.
And you will have a whole lot of things in third year that are really tightly related to these. But one of the key things with this program, and what gives you a lot of flexibility, is that you don't specialise from the start. So at first year, you can very easily keep all of your options open. So these are the majors that you will choose one of as you go through the program. And we've got huge areas of strength and brilliant people teaching into all of these who are really across, have the expertise in each of these areas, but you don't need to worry about narrowing down and choosing one of these at first year.
Exactly. And this major comprises, when you get to third year, it comprises 3/4 of what we call your load, or the courses that you do are all aligned to your area of specialization or your major, but you still get a couple of options elsewhere to choose from in the Bachelor of Health and Medical Sciences program, where you can still choose other electives as well to strengthen that. So our majors listed here, and I won't really go into them in detail. Clinical trials, that's a really growing major, I think. Kathy, would you agree? A lot of interest in there. There's a lot of interest from clinical trials facilities at the moment that are expanding in number and strength in Adelaide, which is fantastic opportunities for our students. Medical sciences is probably our largest major. That encompasses the disciplines of pharmacology, anatomy, pathology and physiology, and neuroscience, nutritional health, public health and reproductive and childhood health. Next slide, please. And I think the next slide just reiterates them again. And I don't think we need to go into them in too much more detail. Really, Kathy, what do you think?
No, look, happy to answer questions about what the courses look like in those majors if anyone's interested when we get to the Q&A. But let's talk about what it looks like and where you go across the whole program. I think if we can jump through probably the next 2, Tequila.
Great idea. And if you go, yes, we'll go past them. So that's just the majors again. So one thing that we are so proud of, and which really sets our programs apart from others is that all of our students have a research experience at third year. And this research experience or research placement it crosses both semester 1 or semester 2. It gives extensive links to our industry partners, and our industry links are incredibly diverse. But also we have the opportunity for students to also do work integrated learning or work integrated placements, which are a much more intensive internship, if you like, or placements. And this is a fantastic opportunity for students to choose a placement within their area of specialisation in their major. So it really works hand in hand alongside the theory courses that they will take of that major. And this is an opportunity to potentially work in an industry that you may end up working in, or get experience in a laboratory where the head of the supervisor will eventually become your supervisor or even your employer. So this is a great way of bridging that gap between being a student and actually having a presence out in industry and in research areas. Anything else there, Kathy, that I've missed?
I guess I just really wanted to make the point that a lot of these courses, as well as giving you the content and the expertise in your area of specialisation, are really designed to reinforce your career readiness and your generic skills that we know employers are after, and so that you're coming out of this program basically work ready.
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely. Next slide, please. So the Bachelor of Health and Medical Sciences. So you can see it's ranked number 1 in South Australia, and it certainly develops relevant skills in multiple careers in health. And we've already touched on the 6 majors available. Next slide, please. So what sets this apart? Well, explore human biology and public health straight from day 1. And we encourage our students to take both of those courses, because both of those courses in first year become your needed courses, or what we term in university talk prerequisite courses for those courses at second year. And it gives you an opportunity to really explore what avenue of health you are really interested in. You gain research experience, which we've touched on. We place a big emphasis on group work, because we completely understand the value of being able to work in teams. It is essential, and an important skill to learn for all of our students when we leave university is, in most, if not, well, in the majority of workplace environments, you need to work with other people. You need to work in a team, and the best minds come together to solve problems. So we install this very early on in your program. In fact, in all of our core courses, group work is essential. And we feel this is a really important attribute, I suppose, Kathy, for our programs, because it means everyone brings their own expertise and their own personalities into these discussions, and problems can be much better solved when you have minds all coming together. And that's certainly the case in many of the careers that our students go out into after the program. The year-long placement, which we've already touched on, and there's lots of exciting developments, even that we're currently in the loop in creating more work integrated learning and placement opportunities for our students, which is really exciting. So we're continually evolving and continually talking to industry and to our stakeholders to see what is it that you want our students to have when they potentially are employed by you. What attributes do you need from them? And so this enables us to refresh our offerings and to be able to embed them, particularly at the later years of the program, second and third year, where we can go, oh, there's this real need for students to potentially gain employment in clinical trials facilities. Okay, what are the attributes they need to learn? Let's make that happen. So we're continually refreshing the program. And one thing on that before I forget, because it's really important, and we've got some fabulous students online, which is great. We have this very close professional relationship and discussion with our student association, and that's an important voice where we can actually hear from the students directly, to hear from them and say, okay, what's going well with the program, what can be improved with the program, what do the students want? And so they are representatives on our programs boards. And that is crucial. I truly believe that interface, that interface between the students and the academics enables us to really be able to mold and create a program that is going to benefit all of our students. And the overseas study tour, which we've already kind of touched on, but there are study tours, there are overseas experiences, and as I've said, our student success team can work with all of our students to create those opportunities for you. And we feel that in second semester of second year is the best time for our students to do an overseas exchange, for example. And then we can, assist students in choosing courses that will meet their program requirements and won't add any extra time onto your program. So that's fantastic. I wish I had that opportunity when I was at university. Okay, next slide, please. So at first year in the Bachelor of Health and Medical Sciences, we do a core course in first year called Create, Communicate and Connect. This is very much a transition to university course. It embeds the skills of communication, of group work, of oh gosh, I can't even begin to explain the importance of this course. It reminds us about, academic integrity, research integrity. It connects you with alumni, employability skills, everything. It's quite a unique, well, it is a unique course within the university, which is fantastic. And that is where, particularly focusing on verbal and written communication, in addition to that, students get to choose another 7 electives. So the way the university, the program is structured, you generally, a full-time load would be you do 4 courses in semester 1 and 4 courses in semester 2. So I think the thing I wanted to reiterate here is you're not locked in to, we're not prescribing you with exactly what courses you need to do. You have lots of room to choose electives. If you have an interest in languages, we promote you to study languages. If you have an interest in physics or philosophy or music or economics, you can still choose electives from other faculties as well. Up to half of your load can be external, and I think this is a really strong feature of our programs. I think that gives students that flexibility to be able to really tailor what courses they do. At second year, you do another course that revolves around group work as well, called Reflect, Research, Resolve Questions in Health, or much easier to say RRR. This again is about group work, collaborative, investigate contemporary health challenges. And one of the great things about this course is it gives students an opportunity to choose a problem that they want to solve that is relevant, potentially relevant to the major or area of specialization they want to go in. So if they want to do neuroscience, they could potentially choose a problem to solve and work on that problem related to neuroscience or any of the other areas. And this is great for extending the teamwork skills and really getting them into the research mindset. But in addition to that, you have another choice of 7 courses, 2 of which will be part of your major and other electives. And as with first year, half of these can also be from other faculties as well, if you have an interest in other areas. In third year, it becomes much more major centric. By then, students have worked out, yes, it is neuroscience, the major I want to do, and there's no bias whatsoever coming from my mouth because that's just my area of expertise. So I'm going to go straight there. But by then, and then 3/4 of the load in third year will be focused around neuroscience. So the theory as well as the research placement, but we still have the opportunity to take 2 more courses in that year outside of that major, which is fantastic too. So if students are still also, they have an interest in nutrition or an interest in clinical trials, they can take them as well. Next slide, please. On to Kathy.
Get a word in edgewise, Corinna.
Sorry,
So good. So the Health and Medical Sciences and the Health and Medical Sciences Advanced programs are really quite similar in a lot of ways. So you still have all of the options of those 6 majors. Again, we have a lot of focus on career readiness and making sure that you come out of this program ready to step into a career, and you'll still get the opportunity to undertake that research placement or internship in your 3rd year. Can I have the next slide, Tequila, please? So what we cover in the advanced program, and I guess the main difference between these 2 programs are around the core courses. So our core courses in the advanced program enable you to get some clinical skills and exposure to that clinical environment and a really deep understanding of the health system more broadly in our 1st year core course, including spending some time in the Adelaide Health Simulation in the AHMS building that you saw at the start. We have a cross-faculty course in 3rd year, which is around innovating in health and how we actually go about doing that, where we bring ideas in from the innovation and commercialisation and innovation team, as well as from health sciences, and bring that together to try and come up with some solutions and work out how we are actually doing them. You will, again, have the opportunity to work with award-winning health researchers, and in that final year, you'll undertake your research placement or internship. So when we look at the program map, Tequila, the next one. So as I said, our 1st year core course is called Clinical Skills and Simulation, and that doesn't just give you the opportunity to gain some clinical skills and see the simulation lab, but you also have the opportunity to work in a group and really unpack a health problem that you will choose to focus on. You will also get the opportunity to interact with some clinicians and find out about the health system. On top of that, as you would in health and medical sciences, you will have 7 electives. And as we've already touched on, by taking particularly the human biology and the public health aspects courses in the 1st year, you've got all of your options open for majors as you go through the program. So in the advanced program, our 2nd year core course is called Hacking Health, which came out of the idea of a hackathon as opposed to a hacking cough, but is really about this. Okay, so how do we actually work out how to solve a problem in health, what's already been done, what might work, and then evaluate what we've done to work out whether this is going to be something that we go on with or not. Similar to the health and medical sciences program, you will take another 7 courses in conjunction with that core course at 2nd year. Most people will do, so a given major will have 2 courses that you need to do at 2nd year. Most people will pick 2 or 3 or 4 courses that they know they want to do at 2nd year to keep their options open as to where they specialise when they go to 3rd year. So even at 2nd year, you don't need to have chosen your major. And then in 3rd year, in the advanced program, we have another core course called Innovating Health, which is where we actually go about planning how we're going to solve some problem, work out the fit between the solution and the problem, and work out how we're going to implement the solution to that one. In addition to your research placement or internship, which will be a quarter of your load, and 4 theory courses, so that by the time you come out of either of these programs, you've really got some nice depth in the content around the theory and that particular specialisation, as well as some hands-on experience through your research placement. With the next slide, Tequila, please. Okay, do you want to do this one, Karina?
Oh, I've spoken way much more than you. You can
Sure, I can do this. So I think Karina's already summed it up really neatly. It's always one of those, at open day, we get that question, if I do this program, what will I be? And we always go, well, we don't really know, because 1, for the number of graduates we have, we probably have as many career paths. 2, it's really broad. 3, we don't know what you're going to like and where you want to specialise yet. It's not a program that has a single outcome for our graduates. But I think it's also fair to say that those students who really get enthused about it and find their niche do not have problems finding employment as well. And I guess these are some of the kind of places they end up with, but equally students will use this program either as a pathway into research and doing work around understanding medical problems, or as a pathway into another program, a level of specialisation after this program. Okay, next one, Tequila.
Yes. Well, this is just a leading slide to the next slide, to apply to study. So just some facts about admissions information. And again, any questions can be, specific questions can be either put in the chat or asked after. But you can see that the minimum ATAP for Bachelor of Health and Med Sci is 65, or IB 24, and 95 for that is the minimum domestic academic score for the advanced program. And there are no, I think one of the beauties about this program is, unlike some other degrees, there are no prerequisites for students to have. So we do not say you must achieve X result in year 12 biology or chemistry to get access into the be able to be eligible to apply for the program. So that's a really attractive attribute, I think. The program. Certainly, I would probably say the majority of our students have done biology in year 12, or at very least in year 11, and many have also done chemistry, and that will certainly help you a lot in first year when you take human anatomy and physiology as one of the core courses. That's for sure. What's the next slide? I think the next slide is questions. Is there any?
We're already at questions. Okay.
I know. Is there anything we missed before we go into questions? I'm just trying to think. I don't think so. I don't.
If you have anything else you want to add, you're also welcome to jump in throughout the Q&A process. I think people are still posting their questions in the Q&A below, so we've got time.
Great.
Absolutely.
Throw any questions our way. We'd be very happy to answer them.
Beautiful. Well, thank you firstly, Karina and Kathy, for actually providing all that information for us and to give us a bit of an insight into the health and medical program. We will now spend some time answering these questions that have come through from our audience, and I can see that already quite a few have come in over the duration of the session. I'm going to actually just start with one that we've got here. Kelly, you might like to take this one. It's, can you tell us why you chose to study the Bachelor of Health and Medical Sciences?
So as Karina and Kathy have said, at first I just had a broad interest in something health related. In high school, year 12, I did biology and chemistry, and before that I did physics as well, so I was a very science-oriented student. And just from learning about the program, how absolutely broad it is, because at that stage, not many people actually know what they want a career in the future, because it's just so many years ahead of us. So I was thinking, start with something broad, and then we'll see how we go from there. What piques my interest, and this degree had so many pathways and courses that was just, it sometimes was overwhelming about how much choices you have, but that's also such a good thing, because then you get to explore so many things as well. So that's the main reason why I chose this degree. Yeah.
Can I just add on there, and thank you, Kelly, for saying that. But I will just follow on from that some students do go, oh my gosh, it's so broad. I have so many choices. Where do I start? Am I doing the right thing? And I just need to reiterate how fabulous our Ask Adelaide and student success teams are, and our program advisors, because they will literally guide you from day one right until graduation, when they're the ones that will confer your degree and make sure you've met all the prerequisites. And if at any time you feel you're going on the wrong track, they will ensure that they pull you in. And so you're never alone. And I cannot stress that enough, because you know, so often students will say, oh my gosh, this is overwhelming and there's too much choice and I wish you'd just tell me what I need to do. No, we're not going to tell you what you need to do.
I am going to jump in a minute, Karina, because do kind of tell you what to do. So certainly for the starting off first year students, we have a generic first year plan that says, if you do this as a first year and this is a first year plus your core course, you've got all of your options, and then pick in the other spaces, put things that you're interested in doing. And so you've got the chance to sample a whole lot of areas that you're interested in, but you are safe in the sense of you haven't cut off any opportunities in terms of where you go after that as a second year student. So it's not quite as scary as it sounds. Nakai?
No,
Beautiful.
Sorry,
Thanks,
just
Kathy.
to add on
Karina?
to what Kathy said about the study plans, like a very attractive factor for me for this degree was that opportunity to go outside of the health and medical sciences faculty. Like, I cannot stress enough how important it is to explore other faculties, and it makes your load much lighter as well, not just having to focus on science stuff. So if you do go into this degree, please, please, please utilize those free electives.
Thank
Yeah,
you,
so
Nakai.
I would
you.
generally say to students, if you do things you're interested in, you're going to enjoy it. Yeah.
You. I'm going to have to move along a little bit because we do have quite a few questions that have come in through the chat. Nikai, while I've got you there, we do have a question at the top of the list here asking about if I'm looking to study another program but I didn't get a high enough ATAR score, would you recommend that I do health and medical sciences to build up my GPA? Would this course be beneficial in that regard? Would you like to take that one?
Absolutely. So I actually had a friend who knew that they wanted to get into health and med, but they weren't quite sure where they wanted to end up. So they took this course, and at the end of the year, they decided they wanted to do an allied health course, which is the new ones that happened that started in 2021. So that's speech path, physio, and one I'm missing.
Okay.
OT, yes. So she took first year health and med last year, and she's in her first year of the allied health course after transferring, and she's always telling me how much doing health and med gave her such a good foundation for her allied health course. So all the stuff that she learned in anatomy and physiology, CCC, has become so relevant and has given her a step up to people who are just coming straight from high school and taking that course. So if you feel like you might not be at the right spot with your ATAR to go straight into that course, I cannot recommend enough taking health and med, and who knows, you might actually end up staying.
Thank you for that. That was a really good answer, actually. Now coming to one or two questions, I think a bit similar here, so I'll tie them into one. I think, Karina, you actually already mentioned this with the academic entry requirements. Do you need a chemistry or biology background to do this course? Is this program for me if I haven't done these subjects? Would it make it easier? I think you pretty much summarized that the answer is no, these are not a prerequisite subject, which is part of what makes the degree so flexible. However, it's greatly beneficial and will help you with many of the courses. Would you like to add on to that?
I would like to add on to that, because I will say that biology is really core to this program. So if you don't have an interest in biology, then I really would be hesitant to recommend you take this program, because and I'm not saying if you haven't done biology, please don't take this program. That's totally different. But if you really are like, oh my gosh, I've never touched biology in year 11 and 12 because it does not interest me, then I would question whether this program is the right fit for you. And if you haven't done them, but you're like, no, but it's always interested me, I just never had an opportunity to do it, you won't be at a disadvantage for it, because our lecturers at first year with introductory human anatomy and physiology step you through without any assumed knowledge. Nakai?
Beautiful.
Just a quick touch up on prerequisites. If you haven't done chemistry and biology, but you feel like you want to, there are courses that are available for you to do without having done those, and they take you through to the basics. So if you haven't done biology or chemistry, but you feel like you want to and still want to take this course and want that extra help with anatomy and physiology, it's absolutely possible for you to take an unassumed knowledge biology or chemistry class.
Mm-hmm. Perfect.
That's a really good point, Nakai. Anyone who is interested in those programs, we do actually, I'll include it in the next, in our conclusion, but we do have an email address and you can contact us for a bit more information about those bridging programs if you're interested. Another question we've got now, one of the academic staff, one of you guys might like to take this one. Could you explain a little bit more about the clinical trials?
Do you want me to do that one, Karina? Sure.
Yeah, you're
So clinical trials is one of the 6 majors or areas of specialisation from the program. So at the moment, it's probably 10% of the cohort or so might take that major, but there's space there to expand. If you do the clinical trials major, at the moment, you will do a research placement, and we are currently working through having an internship option in your 3rd year, as well as the theory courses around that. So the clinical trials major looks at or includes theory on things like, how drugs are designed and what are the processes that are gone through before a drug goes through to approval, and also looks from that public health experimental trial kind of perspective around, well, how do we go about designing a clinical trial? How do we manage clinical trials? What's required there? And so the idea is that by combining those with an internship in a clinical trial environment or a research placement in a clinical trial environment, that you are coming out work ready to take those positions. And I'm not sure if they pop up on your LinkedIn, but they do on mine, that there is a huge demand at the moment for people who are either clinical trial assistants, so helping to run those things, or clinical trial coordinators, the next step up the ladder.
Mm-hmm. And many of our students say, I wished I could get more experience or work in it with patients. This is a perfect opportunity to be able to work with patients, but it also combines your underlying knowledge of, perhaps pharmacology, how drugs work, your knowledge about pathologies and cancers and cardiovascular diseases and all of those things that they are trialing in a clinical trials facility, as well as being able to be very patient-centric and forward-facing. So it's certainly a growing area of desire for our students. And as I touched on earlier, we're really working with clinical trials facilities to get more of them on board to supervise students. Nakai?
So if you're unsure about your major, I think in one of the earlier videos, I think it was Ashton, who was a past student, who talked about how AMSA runs some events where we get past people who've graduated from this degree. So some of those people have taken clinical trials, and they can tell you more about what their job includes. And we also have companies that do clinical trials like CMAX, who come to those events and they tell you the kind of job opportunities that they have, where if you take that major, what it could lead you to do.
Great, thank you. We have another interesting question here. Can first year students apply to be a research assistant? One of the...
Probably not, because they haven't quite got that skill set that they need before they're qualified. So certainly people coming out of this program can apply for and can win jobs as research assistants when they've finished the 3-year degree. Mm-hmm. Students who know that they want to specialise in research and get more intensive research training will often do an honours year at the end of this program, where they spend a year and do a self-contained research project working with an academic supervisor or team of supervisors. And those people, because they've got a greater level of experience in that research environment, are usually more competitive for research assistant jobs. But there are different levels of research assistant jobs, and I guess like anything, the more interest you've got, the more you've used your network, and that's where a lot of those jobs tend to come from.
I think that's what's so interesting about having that opportunity to do a research or internship in 3rd year. You can make those connections that will lead you, to get that job. Because I know past graduate from last year who got their current jobs because they internshipped there during their 3rd year.
And also there is also the summer scholarship opportunities as well, where some of our students may have had a fantastic lecturer in 2nd year physiology and have gone, oh my gosh, I want to know more about cardiac physiology. I want to do a 4 or a 6-week summer scholarship. And that also opens that door to get them into that lab during that January period. So any way that they can open those doors and get immersed in those laboratories is certainly beneficial.
Great. Got a great question that's just come in. What are some extracurricular activities that you can get involved in during your time at the University of Adelaide? Kelly or Nakai, would one of you like to take this one?
Like I think both of us can take it.
Yeah, I love this question. I love it so
Yeah.
much. So
So
both me and Kelly are part of AMSA, and honestly, having this society, like seeing the stuff that they do before I came into this degree was a really big deciding factor into me taking it, because I still want to have that social connection while I'm doing my study. Kelly?
yeah. So my reason wasn't quite exactly like Nakai, because coming into uni, I already wanted to put myself out there, do more volunteering events, and actually gain experience and these kind of skills of working in a team collaboratively in a committee to organize these events for students for everyone else's benefit. So that was my main reason of joining AMSA. And in my first year, I was one of the first year representatives, along with Nakai. We've basically been joined at the hip. And this year we've transitioned into her becoming the president and me becoming the secretary, where we've had some small training at first to, get used to this kind of role. And those kind of skills that we gain from actually organizing a team, delegating jobs, and organizing, contacting so many people for sponsorships, venues, it just really helps you in learning how to communicate well to other people and reach goals, and it's just amazing to see like the end goal.
Yeah. And there is a bunch of activities that we run throughout the year. So if you have a knack for event directing, you can help out with finding places for the ball, which is our biggest event. We have pub crawls sometimes, we have quiz nights, and it's a really fun community. And even though we do have the educational side of it, where we organize things like majors night, careers nights, we still want you to have fun, even if you're part of the committee. So I would recommend highly joining us once you join AMSA, join the degree, because for me, it's just made my time in this degree and at uni so much better, because I've also met so many people, so many opportunities, and it's just been wonderful.
Just to touch up on that though, AMSA obviously it isn't the only club at uni. I know we've been speaking a lot about it, but that's because we're part of the committee. But in my first year, I joined 5 clubs. I know it sounds a lot, but it was just kind of just that networking, having a feel around, being like amongst people who are like-minded. At university, we have clubs like Women in STEM, and they're an amazing association. Their events are absolutely brilliant. Where like our association, they create networking events, and then basically going towards their own goal of empowering women. Obviously, you don't have to be a woman to join. I know a bunch of men who have also joined that club as well. You have a bunch of language clubs. You have a lot of political clubs, religious clubs, and just some very fun clubs like if you happen to know what anime is, we have an anime club, dancing. There's just a whole bunch of associations that's there to like help you network, help you gain skills, and just help you connect with hobbies that you might not even know you enjoyed.
I think if you're more interested in clubs, you can go onto the union website, and it has an extensive list of all the clubs that are available for you to join. And again, that's one of the things that I like about Adelaide Uni. It's just the social scene, because I know some other unis don't have that, and it's just makes it so much easier.
Beautiful, thank you. Now I think we have time for just maybe another 1 or 2 questions. I've got one that I'm happy to grab. Is the UCAT a necessity for entry into this program? I'm going to go ahead and say no for that one. We have only 3 programs at the university that do require the UCAT as an entry requirement. That is the Bachelor of Dental Surgery, the Bachelor of Medical Studies, and the Bachelor of Oral Health. None of our other health or medical science related programs do actually have this requirement. And I think for one last question, we've got quite a few here, so just everyone keep in mind that any questions remaining, we will get a response to you. One recurring question that's come quite a bit is that there are plenty of different careers that this degree leads to. Given that the degree is so broad, could you please list 1 or 2 examples of potential careers that could come from this program? So maybe Karina or Kathy, one of you might like to take this one.
Gosh, That's really, really tricky.
So
Um,
I'll throw out a couple there
Yeah.
that I know. So I've got graduates that have come out of the Health and Medical Sciences Advanced program. For example, there are several now working in clinical trials facilities in Adelaide. And so that's part of this network who are now coming to us and saying we're looking for more students and this is what we need them to be able to do. I do know multiple people who have gone through this program, some with an honours year and some without, who are working in research facilities as research assistants as well. And there are graduates, so there's a health and medical sciences graduate from 2 years ago now who is working with one of the surgical equipment companies selling robotic surgery equipment. So she's the rep for that company. But it's, you can probably see from that, it's broad. Kids Safe at the Women's and Children's Hospital, the people who are running the Kids Safe program are graduates from this program. Go for it, Corinna.
Yeah, the one that really jumps out at me at the moment is an interesting story by Madison Sims, who actually graduated the program with a medical sciences major, but she is currently the senior contact tracer and case management team leader in the COVID response team at SA Health. And that just goes to show how our environment in health is ever changing. And I would imagine if you asked her 3 years ago, would you be in that role, the answer would be no. So, you know, you can see that even with a medical sciences major, and she had done some public health courses throughout her program, she is now leading the contact tracing team in SA Health. And I know many others working in the cardiophysiology patient testing laboratories at the Royal Adelaide Hospital, the gait analysis laboratories for recovery of stroke victims at the Lyell McEwen Hospital. So it's just so incredibly dynamic and so broad. And we also we've created an alumni group on LinkedIn too, where we invite our students who have just completed the program to join that group. And that's a really amazing way of keeping track of where they are and updates on all of their achievements. And there's a couple of hundred students in that group, and it's amazing.
Amazing. Thank you so much to our entire panel for all of your questions and all of your answers, and everyone who's participated so far. This does bring us to the very end of our health and medical session as part of the HQ Health event. If you have further questions or you'd like to talk to one of our future student team members for a one-on-one chat, please direct these to start@adelaide.edu.au with the subject Health HQ so that we can find it nice and quickly. You can also find more information about the university and all of our degrees by visiting adelaide.edu.au. If you're interested in attending a similar session to tonight, we would love to see you on campus for our open day, which will be held on Sunday, the 14th of August. Pop it in your diary, as it really is the best way to explore the campus and see all of the amazing facilities and resources that we have on offer. Please feel free to keep an eye out for the official open day website if you're interested. So I think that wraps up tonight's webinar. I would really like to thank the panelists for their time this evening, and of course a big thank you to all our beautiful participants. Thank you for joining us tonight. I hope you all have a great rest of your evening.
Thank you, everyone.
Nice to meet you guys.
Evening.
Thank you. Bye.